for all Christians and religions out there, all over the world, right? I want you to listen carefully. Number one, Jesus was not a pastor or a priest, right? He didn't work in a church. He worked in nature, right? In case you don't know that, he said the kingdom's yours, right? So that's the first concept you need to get right. Many people are consistently quoting the Bible, right? And that I'm not the one chosen for so many reasons from the Bible. These people have a psychological relationship with the Bible and a book, and has never grown up from there. Has never created a relationship or been reborn. Okay? Jesus said, think outside the mind. Don't live in a book all day. Obviously, you're just programming yourself, right? Get out there and make a connection, right? Make an instinctive connection with your own soul and create that relationship, because you're not even reborn when you keep thinking this way, right? You keep thinking this way. You keep programming yourself to believe in your own truth, right? And to be selfish and egotistical. One thing I'm just going to tell you very clearly right now, I'm going to make this very clear on a video. I get so many people who think they know everything about the Bible, right? Okay, but they've got no idea that the biggest Bible, the oldest Bible in the world is this big, right? The most important parts are taken out, and 17 years of Jesus' life of the footstep he wanted you to follow. I give specific education about this, but 99% of people debunk and discredit what the truth is, right? Because they can't fathom being wrong, right? People are so afraid of being wrong, they'd rather stay in the deception that they're in. That's extraordinary. The first sign of mental disorders, right, and psychological mental disorders, right, controlled by Satan, is when you live in denial and you refuse to be wrong about something. When you can't handle being wrong, you can't learn anything neither. You can't even agree to disagree anymore. You have to argue about things. So the first thing I want you to say is that's the greatest sign of you being in a psychological warfare, isn't it? Basic common sense tells you that. God told you to put the scripture and all your educated knowledge down. 99% of you go to the scripture. You do everything back to front on reverse psychology. That's funny, isn't it? You believe in the Bible, you believe in everything about Jesus Christ, but you don't follow any of the warnings whatsoever, right? You were told you were going to get done with greed, power, temptation, money, material things. You were told you were going to get with modern gadgets and modern images all over the world, and those modern gadgets that creates images. Now that's televisions, right? And these platforms in on the phone. And if we take the phone off, most of you go mental. We know that, right? So you're stuck in the system, and you're stuck, right, with all the things that you're warned about, such as the government will deceive you, and they will be the Antichrist. They will be the one that works against Jesus Christ and everything about our spiritual, as a spiritual human being. But you believe in the governments, right? And you're controlled by greed, power, temptation, money and material things in every aspect of your life, psychologically, right? That's extraordinary, isn't it? Let me tell you something, right, that you need to understand about life at the moment, right? Okay, I didn't come here through the church. I didn't come here to save people that believes in Jesus Christ and already saved, yet most of you are the ones that debunk me because you think you're highly intelligent. I'm on a platform here where I'm trying to save millions of people over the earth. And do you know why? Because God never gives up on everyone. But you do. You do. If we don't talk about what you believe in your belief system and your little clan, right, then you debunk and discredit, because the truth is all you care about is you. All you care about is your belief system and not being wrong with psychological, egotistical behavior. But do you care about all the people suffering around the world? Because Jesus did. Jesus cared about those in poverty. Jesus cared about all the criminals and prostitutes. They were the ones that was his disciples. Oh, no, they weren't. Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Half of them were criminals and prostitutes, right? And he always, right, saw the good in people, no matter what, okay? Yes, there's evil people there too, but he sees through that, and he knows that you can save anyone and you can change anyone. Well, I have that experience in prison from 10 years in the biggest mental health research ever conducted in global history, right, to go into the research to find the cure of human condition that you suffer. Right, the whole Western civilization now today, the whole Western civilization is designed to reverse psychology and think 95% of the time and 5 cents in negative feels, and it's natural to think with your 6 cents 95% of the time. So you're back to front, and you come to your conclusion with reason with everything you do, right? Back to front, because you don't follow human instincts, because you're completely stripped from them. Right? You're stripped from your 6 cents with the biggest documents in the world since 1999. And then you think you're awake at the same time. Isn't that extraordinary? Because it's 5 times worse and accelerating 7 times faster today in the biggest psychological warfare against your own spirit in human history, right? Most of you Christians out there and religious people, you're not genuine. You have a psychological belief system, right? But not a faithful one, not one with the instinctive behavior, with a full connection where you have a relationship with God, a real genuine spiritual relationship that guides you on the most positive fields. You don't have that. You live in a book and you live in programming and you think too much. And that's the first thing you need to wake up to. Look, I'm here to save everybody. So when I bring the book of Jeremy Griffiths forward to you, right, it's a cure of human conditioning in a biological way so that it wake everybody up. Once you get fully readapted into your natural environment and think outside the mind like Jesus told you to, in the right mindset that they've discovered today, that cures the human condition and everything you suffer? Of course I'm going to bring that to your attention first so you can put your mindset in the right mindset, right? But I also talk about Jesus Christ, right? And to do the We're Not Breathing program and to what? To create that relationship. Now, that's extraordinary because most Christians around the world who preaches the Bible, right? It hasn't worked, has it? Your pastors and preachers hasn't worked. I just want you to know something, right? Guys rolled out of jail, right, in 2000, right? Guys rolled out of jail all over the world, right? Okay, that was given a message by God. Okay, 10 organisations start up in the US and 7 in Australia, right? From criminals, right, in the underground world. And I just want you to know, right, that all the biggest churches in the world start to complain. The biggest ones in America complain to the federal police about these people pulling people in from the streets like junkies and criminals and all that, right? Okay, bringing them into these new churches, right, on the streets, like street Bible, street church, right? Okay, so I want you to understand something very careful about this, right? Very careful, right? Pull your head in, listen. The biggest churches in the world made complaints about this because so many people was coming to them, right, from the streets. And they were complaining to the police that they were organising criminal networks for drugs and all these things, right? So the federal police went into an investigation that lasted for a whole decade. There's a 2-hour documentary made about this, right? So pull your head in and listen. A 2-hour documentary was made about this. People like me off the streets, right? That's what you have to understand. People like me, right? People chosen like me, right? All over the world by God, right? And that's what I want you to understand. They went under the biggest investigation for a decade by the federal police because of the biggest churches was complaining about them. And I want you to know something. I want you to know something very carefully. You can read everything about this, right? And I want you to read everything about this. Because one thing you've got to understand is what the results were. The results was this. The churches was helping people on the streets and getting people off heroin and drugs and all these things, right? At a rate of between 1 and perhaps 15% success rate. The people they investigated, they found out they had more faith and was doing a lot more than the church was and weren't living off money or any donations whatsoever. They were doing it off their back, loving one another and bearing one another's burdens and living by the vineyard rule, the very commandments that God gave us and how to govern life, right? They live by them automatically, right, with street wisdom, right, in the underground world. You don't know that and you don't want to believe that because you're Babylonian creatures that's been programmed to believe completely everything else. So understand what the truth is, guys, because in the biggest research ever done in this, on the biggest investigation, right, this investigation was only finished in 2019 and a 2-hour documentary was made about this immediately in 2019. So I want you to understand something. These guys were set by the federal police, right, not to be funded, to be succeeding with street kids and getting people off drugs, particularly heroin, at a rate of 87%. 87%, and they were doing more for children on the streets and getting people off drugs and restoring a faith system, right, at the same time than anyone in the church ever has in global history. So when you all live in your massive delusional bubbles to think you're doing something special, I want you to know that most of you just care about yourself and you don't care about the people suffering like Jesus did, right? And it's about time 99% of you morons out there really wake up to what the truth is in the delusional, selfish, self-centered attitude that you live in, right, with competitive behavior. You live in a book and you're told to get out of the book. You're told to have a connection and a relationship with God, right? To be reborn through the rapture. And then you keep preaching the book and what you believe in, right? When it's been manipulated beyond your comprehension in the timeline of deception. Okay, do you understand that? Your original Bible's this big, right? And until you understand the 17 years of Jesus' life and the book of creation, right? The book of Enoch, right? The most preferable man of God, the most trusted man of God that walked with God for 360 years, who was raptured into the future to bring himself up as Jesus Christ to be perfect. When you know nothing about this, you're completely inexperienced, right? And unqualified to judge the situation. And that's the first thing you need to wake up to, right? I'm here to save humanity on a global scale because Jesus did not stand for religions, right? And he did not formulate religions, right? And with controlling authority and behavior in your narrative mind. He told you to think outside the mind and never to continue to live in a book. He didn't live by a book. He never preached by the books. He preached words like the Australian Aboriginals have for 100,000 years. You know why? They have access to sevenfold wisdom knowledge that guides them with that great wisdom and knowledge for thousands of years. Do you have access to this? No, because you don't have a relationship with God, right? That's where your problem is, right? You're completely delusional all over the world.